Welcome everybody to the Edge Rowing podcast. Today, I'm super excited to say that we have Liv Bates here. Liv has been just recently had a successful Olympiad, a multiple World Cup medals. She's been in the kind of GB system for a couple of years now, and she's just recently. I guess these are kind of some of the things I'd like to get into in the conversation. But Liv, I'd like to hear about like the start of your journey and how you got into the sport. So I was actually reading a bio and saw that you kind of maybe similar starting point for me. You saw the 2012 Olympics, was that right? Is that how you kind of got into it, or was it before that?
Yeah, I actually watched it on TV. I watched Kat Granger win the double at the Olympics, and kind of thought it would be a cool sport to try because when I was younger, I kind of went through all of the different sports and just kind of tried everything. Like I did swimming, I did cross country for a bit, I even did gymnastics for a few months, and just never found anything that kind of clicked for me. But when I started rowing, I just kind of got a bit addicted to it and then
Yeah.
never stopped really.
What was it? What did you think the difference was in rowing that got you hooked on it?
I think just being outside. Um,
Yeah.
I'm quite an outdoorsy person,
Yeah.
and I think just the feeling of being on the water, and like I find you can really feel your improvement, um,
Mm.
and I found that kind of feedback really motivating to keep going.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so like say um so you're doing cross country before.
Yeah, I did a bit of running and a bit of swimming, that kind of thing.
Okay, yeah, cool. No, yeah, I just always find it quite interesting to see like what people feel like was, especially because I guess like swimming and like running is fairly similar to rowing in some ways, but yeah, like what? Because I guess you still get that same sense of improvement, but yeah, was like you're saying you kind of find it's the feeling of the water. Is there anything else different about the sport that you can remember? I guess it's a long time ago now, but that you can remember. Um, you fun?
I guess I just kind of joined a club that was very supportive of me, and had a really nice group of girls that I started with.
Yeah.
So there was a really nice kind of team aspect to it as well when I first started.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good to hear because it's such a shame, isn't it, when you hear about kind of some clubs, especially for like young people when it's maybe a bit competitive or a bit kind of toxic in some ways. So it's a shame that it's out there, but good to hear that you had that so early on in your journey. Um so what did the kind of first few years like? Did you get co quite competitive quite early, or um did that kind of just evolve naturally? Like how did that look for you those first few years?
So I started rowing when I was about 13, 14. So my first actual year of racing was J14, I think. So we kind of raced in a J15 Cox quad with a couple of girls that were J15 and then two of us were J14. And we just kind of went around all the like tin pot regattas and just kind of had fun with it for the first
Nice.
couple of years, which was really good. And I think that's kind of stopped me from burning out, if you know what I mean, because I really
Yep.
enjoyed it when I first started and just had fun with it. So yeah, and then when I was 16, I moved to Notts County because I got a bit more serious about it and wanted to train a bit more and kind of
Yeah.
I knew there was a good group of girls there at the time. So I moved from Trent Rowing Club where I learned to row to Notts County
Right. Oh,
when I
and
was
was that a far move or was it kind of just down the road?
It's about a 45-minute drive there. So my parents were obviously driving me before I learned to drive. So I'm very grateful for them to them as
Mm.
well for making that commitment.
Yeah. No, yeah, I guess it's a commitment from everybody, but um yeah, like what was I mean, yeah, a long time ago, I guess, but um did you have any fears? Because this is one thing like I often try to encourage people to do is to get out and find more competition in your local area. So, but a lot of the time there's apprehension. So, um did you like yeah, in that moment did you feel quite um ready to do that, or was there kind of a bit of I don't know any fear going into that? Like how was that process of finding the more competitive club?
um, I mean, I think I've always been quite lucky as that. I am just quite competitive, and I know
Right.
that if I row with people that are better than me, then that will help me, if you know what I mean. So I was actually excited to kind of go there and get better competition and get into better boats and do better at races and that kind of thing. But yeah.
Nice, nice. Okay, so what did you, um, yeah, what did you start to notice as you were in the more competitive group? Like, what were the, how did you, yeah, how did you go about kind of making the most of a competitive environment?
I think it was really good actually because we spent a lot of time in singles at Notts
Okay.
County. That was kind of how they did some of their crew boat selection for like Nat schools and that kind of thing. So I found it really helpful to just have people alongside you all the time because when you made an improvement, you could see that in the speed of your single compared to somebody else. So I think that was really helpful and just yeah, I think healthy competition as well
Mm.
um, between between the athletes.
Okay. Okay. So like in those early stages then, starting to get more competitive, what where do you what do you feel is like pushing you to go from maybe more of a fun environment to more of a yeah, intense and competitive environment? Was it maybe like just purely that kind of competitive nature, or was there kind of some questions that you felt maybe were unanswered, or yeah, like what was the kind of motivation there?
Um, I would say I just wanted to kind of see how far I could go with it, to be fair. And I just kind of love the feeling, you know, when you've done a really hard session and then you just get
Hmm.
to the end of it and just that kind of like dopamine hit you get afterwards. So I'm just someone that loves kind of like training quite hard and competing with other people. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I know. That's one thing I definitely miss from my the it sounds weird, but the most satisfying thing I used to always enjoy was like you complete the hardest training day and then you go to bed at like 8 p.m. and then you wake up at like 6 a.m. and you just feel like a brand new person. Like for me, I always found that the most satisfying. But okay. So what started to change for you in that competitive environment? Like what did you notice as you um yeah, like as you kind of climb, did you I'm guessing you just kind of slowly and steadily climb the rankings from there?
yeah, I mean, I hadn't really done too much kind of in the single that much before I kind of joined Notts
Okay.
County. So I think that gave me a lot of confidence in that boat type, um, training with other people and being in it more. And I think I was able to then take that into a crew boat, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
So then we had some pretty good results at like Nat schools and Brit Champs and that kind of thing. Um, so yeah, and that kind of positive feedback of like getting medals and things like that kind of motivated me
Hmm.
to carry on.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so where would you say like a lot of your yeah, was that where it was winning the kind of like a big motivating factor for you?
Yeah, I would say it was. Yeah, and I think I just liked the sense of team that you got
Mm.
with a bigger group of girls.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, what's your favorite boat category?
Um, I mean, I've got to say the single. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like because I've raced in it so much, I do
Yeah.
have a soft
Have you
for the
forced
single.
yourself to like it?
I don't think so. I don't think there was a point where I ever was like one of them people that was like, oh no, I really don't want to go in the single. Like, I hate the
Right.
single. I've always quite enjoyed it because I feel like if you're having a good day in the single, like it
Mm.
feels amazing. Like I don't think there's a boat that feels like it. But then I think equally, if you're having a bad day, you know about it.
Yeah. But
um,
then yeah, I agree. Sorry, I interrupted you there. Sorry.
no, it's fine. It's fine.
Sorry. Yeah, no, like I always found yeah, and you could change it as well, like you could influence it easier. It's like when there's a problem, you obviously know it's you, and then it's like then you can do something about it rather than, maybe just someone behind you who isn't as into it as you just can't be arsed and um yeah. And then like racing, do you like racing the single? Because I personally I liked racing training in the single more and racing in crew boats. Did you prefer you like racing the single more as well?
Well, I mean, I haven't raced in anything but the single for a very long time. But I do and really enjoy racing in the single. Yeah, I think it's the most rewarding to race in. But then I do enjoy
Nice.
a good double as well. I think
Nice.
they do feel really nice when you get those going well.
Mm, yeah, no, good stuff. Yeah, I guess you maybe were kind of again, I'm not that familiar with the English junior scene. But Nottingham County, it's maybe is that kind of where does that sort of stack in terms of like competitive clubs in the sort of junior scene? Is it kind of mid, like maybe a bit of a smaller club, or is it kind of one of the bigger ones? Just because I know sometimes it can be a bit harder if you're being ambitious and you're maybe from one of the less recognized clubs sometimes.
Yeah, I would say it's probably one of the less recognised smaller clubs. When I was there, we got bronze in the Champ Girls 8. I think that was kind of the
Nice.
biggest result we had in a big boat. But we kind of like got through a couple of rounds at Henley. I don't think we ever made it to the weekend, so it's kind of like mid-range, I would say.
Okay. Okay, yeah, cool. Um, yeah, funny story as well. Like, I was there. Were you there in the summer of 2017 at Nottingham County?
I think that was my first year. Yeah, I would have been a J16 then, I think.
Oh, right, okay, because yeah, that was the year that I was training with Matt Haywood. I don't know if he was in Notts
Yeah,
County though. He was I don't know what it was.
he was Nottingham Rowing Club, I think, because he was
That's
part of
right.
GB Star, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But yeah, we were like living above the boathouse for like a long time with some like we were
Oh,
like
that's
sleep.
cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't say cool. It was smelly and crowded, but no, yeah. Anyway, sorry, a bit of a tangent, but I like the training facility there. I like you've got the long river just outside of the Boyd
Yeah.
course, and then you can go on the Boyd course anytime you want. But um, okay. So just the reason I was asking about that is it's often a reason people spend a lot of time in the single. So when did you early on did you have any, maybe since you saw Kath Granger and Anna Watkins in the double, did was that like I want to go and do GB rowing or was it kind of like I just want to go out and row? Like I'm just trying to ask like when did you start to get aspirations of like getting into the GB team?
Um, I would say like when I first started, I did like always go with the goal of eventually making it to the games. Um, but I don't know whether I ever actually really believed that straight away, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When would you say you started to believe that you could do it?
I would say maybe under 23s when I started doing kind of GB stuff at under 23 level,
Hmm.
and seeing some of the like scores I was doing, and times I was getting on the water and things like that.
Okay.
Um,
What sort of time do you remember? Was there any like moment where you're like, oh right, I can do this?
um, I would say maybe under 23 Europeans in 2021. That was my first kind of proper international race, I'd say. And I don't think anyone was expecting me to get a medal, and I ended up coming away with a silver. Um, so I would say that was probably the point where I was like, oh, okay, I'm actually not that slow. um,
Yeah.
but
No,
yeah.
definitely not. Okay. Yeah, no, that's an exciting feeling. Um, and then so you were progressing through juniors and then were you based in Nottingham County this whole time?
Yeah, so I started at University of Nottingham in 2020 in COVID.
Nice.
So I rode with the university for a season from 2019 until the end of 2020, but I only ever did one race when I was training with them, and that was Fours Head, because obviously COVID cancelled all the races that year, so we were all training at home anyway. And then I decided to go back to Notts County after that,
Okay. Okay.
and then
Um,
I was there until I got onto the team. So
nice. Okay. So how what were some of the things that you think you did well that like started to separate yourself from the other people you were training with?
um, that's a hard question. I would say I probably like knew what I needed to get from each session, if you know what I
Okay.
mean, and just made the most of the time that I had to train around uni. and really made sure that I kind of made the best of each training session that I had.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so how like that process then of being clear on what you're trying to get out of a session, like maybe talk me through you're about to go out in a session, like what would your thought process be?
I think I just kind of speak to my coach and be like, okay, what do we need to get out of this session? What do I need to focus on? What technical points do I need to think about? Um, Kind of what kind of speeds should I be
Yeah.
hitting at different rates if we were doing pieces, and that kind of thing.
Okay, so yeah,
So yeah,
what were
I think it's really important to kind of communicate with your coach as to what the aims of each session are, so you understand what you're trying to get out of it, if you know what I mean, and how that's going
yeah.
to help you further down the line.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um what were the big technical focuses for you?
I would say when I was kind of under 23, I kind of took on too much load at the catch, if you know what
Okay.
I mean. So I kind of
Yeah.
opened my body off the catch and then didn't use my legs as much as I maybe could have. I would say that's the main thing that I kind of focused on through that period.
Right. Okay.
And still even now, I would say
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I think about.
Okay. Any good drills, any good tips for people out there back at home who are trying to work on similar things?
I think I do kind of a lot of legs only in my warm up, and 6 inches to just kind of like feel the lightness at
Mm.
the catch, and keeping the weight into the feet and not in the upper body and the shoulders. Um, what else? And then I used to do quite a lot of bungee work as well, because then I found that when you took the bungee off, it felt so much lighter and you could kind of see the difference in the resistance, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean. I felt it really helped you feel the boat.
Well, this is yeah terrible timing because I just did a post on Instagram about why I disagreed with bungees, but each to their own. There's plenty of ways to skin a cat, but yeah, try it and see, right? Like there's so many ways to
Yeah,
go.
I think it's definitely worth a go because I think it does work for some people more than others. But
Okay.
yeah, I found that really helpful for me.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. And then yeah, like okay, so there's the training side of it having a purpose when you're out in the single. What about like the erg as well? Like how would you go about approaching um yeah, getting faster on the rowing machine?
Um, I would say just kind of sticking to the zones you're supposed to be in for the ergo. So if it was UT2, keeping it UT2. If it was UT1, do it UT1. And
Yeah.
then that means you can hit the hard sessions harder.
Just to jump in quickly, we have a free offer for you that is going to help you row faster. As most of you know, we're fairly capped on how many people we can work with one-to-one, so we spend a lot of time making free content like this so that we can have as big of a positive impact on the sport as possible. To do one better than that, we're currently giving away our free over 40 training zone calculator. So much of the training zone calculations are based off of younger elite Olympians, and the calculations are not accounting for the factors that change as you age. When we coach people, we analyze their data to make sure they're not going too easy and wasting their training times, and to make sure that they're not going too hard and risking their health and decreasing their energy levels. So if you're interested in getting free access to this tool, obviously first listen to the end of the conversation, and then when you're done, head to the link in the bio and grab yourself a free copy. Depending on when you're listening to this, we may have changed this free offer, so the link may no longer be there. That's the end of the interruption. Back to the conversation.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Yeah, just I really especially like asking like lightweights these questions as well, just because there's so much less like it's so much less down to genes and where you find like these little like fine margins in your training, which is it's interesting. So like what was your ERG score there? What sort of ERG scores were you pulling around then when you were getting into the GB team?
Um, I actually can't really remember. I'm not gonna lie. Uh,
That's okay. I met one other rower who I asked what his 2K was, and he was like, I don't know. And I was like, so I've met one other rower who doesn't know what their 2K was. But I guess you know what your PB is, right?
yeah, I know what my PB is, but I don't know what it was like when I
Okay.
got onto the team.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Cool. Okay. So what did that so you going from the European under 23s and the world under 23s, um, what did the process look like of getting, yeah, selected for those kind of first international races in the single? Or
Under
sorry, the
23s.
first senior on international races in the single, I should say.
Okay, I think I just did really quite well at April trials in 2023.
Yeah.
I think I came sixth in the A final, or something like that. That was pretty cool because there was 3 lightweights in the A final.
So annoying when lightweights do that. I hate that. I've been when they started bringing lightweights into the heavyweight trials and they would beat us, I'd be like, come on, you can't even like. But good for
Yeah,
you.
no,
I'm
that's
very
pretty
happy
cool.
for you.
Yeah, so they kind of selected me to do Europeans off the back of that.
Hmm. Okay. So and then so for those that don't know, in the GB system, there was so Liv was in the single for a long time, right? And then there was two people in the lightweight double, a pretty established crew, um, who just won gold in Paris. Did you get any crack at like seat racing or having a go in the double at all?
I did a couple of training sessions in it, and then I obviously raced in it at Europeans this year with Imogen,
Yeah.
because Emily was injured, unfortunately. But I didn't do a seat race. No, I never did a seat
Yeah.
race.
Okay. Okay. So again, I don't mean this in like a like twist in the nice sort of question kind of way, but like, did you? How did it feel like going into a situation where maybe there's a super established like crew, like Emily and Imogen, um, but there's maybe a small chance that you could get selected for it? Like, just yeah, I'm just curious, like what that process was like for you, you know, or like, or was it, you maybe knew you weren't gonna get a chance at racing in it, bar injury?
I think me, because I'd never been on the team before, I think I was just kind of like, I went into it with a very positive mindset of like, you're going to get
Nice.
this opportunity to train with these like amazing athletes and think about how much that will help you improve. And I also obviously love training in the single. So I also saw the opportunity for me to race internationally in the lightweight single, which I think is an equally as rewarding kind of thing to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, that's like, yeah, such a good way to good way to look at it. So when you like, how did you find your first few races in the single as senior international single? Like, was there like, did you notice a big step up in sort of the way races, yeah, went when you went from kind of the under 23s into senior?
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, I think I got a bit of a shock at Europeans the first time I raced. I think like so many things can change between races in the
Okay,
single. Like someone can be going well one race and not so well the other race. And I think the
right.
thing between under 23 and senior as well is that at senior level everyone's really fast,
Yeah.
whereas at under 23s there's a couple of people that are pretty quick and then there's quite a big drop off. So yeah, and
Okay.
I
So
think
what did
like
you
there's some people that have obviously been in the single for a very long time, so they're very experienced at racing,
hmm,
whereas I was going into it only having done 3 international races in the single before then going into that event. So
okay. So all right. Well, what advice would you give yourself if you could go back in time and speak to yourself in that first senior international singles race? Like, what advice would you give yourself?
um I would say just take it all in and don't get too stressed about it
Okay.
and just enjoy the racing.
Okay. So what was that first event not very fun?
Um, I did really enjoy it. I mean, Bled was an amazing
Oh
place,
yeah.
and I got some really close races, which I'd never really had before. But I think I was a bit too concerned with the result rather than the experience, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Was that something that changed as you got a few more races under your belt then, starting to just like enjoy it at the moment a bit more?
Yeah, definitely. I think I learned to enjoy it because you never know when is going to be your last race, if you know what I mean. So think it's really important to enjoy the opportunities that you get.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the only race I did on the international scene, yeah. I agree that there's a lot of fast people. And then, yeah, the other big thing, I was lucky. I remember taking one moment in the middle of a race where I was just like, oh, this is quite the intensity, and the kind of, yeah, the excitement in the moment. It's hard to appreciate it when you're nervous and when you're stressed and like pushing as hard as you can. But, yeah. Okay. So what was next then on the horizon after your first race? Like what were you working on as you started to what were you aiming to do better? I guess that's more from like the you were talking about enjoying it more and taking more of it in the moment. How are you approaching getting better a bit more tactically, like maybe with your training or with your technique? Um, uh, yeah, as you move from race to race.
Um, I think obviously you're always working on your own technical points, so I think just continuing to do that. And then kind of because when I was at Notts County as an under 23, there weren't really that many other people for me to train with. So I was training on my own quite a lot of the
Right.
time. So then coming on to the team, there was obviously other people training in singles while I was training in the single. So I think really taking the opportunities that I got there to do pieces side by side with
Mm.
people really helped me move my speed on.
Yeah. No, yeah, I know what I spent a few years training on my own. And then went into the team and it's so much. I mean, I don't know. I found it so much easier to train in that big group, like just from a motivation standpoint. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is nice to be surrounded by people with the same goals.
Mm,
Um,
yeah. That was what I remember Sam Townsend saying, that you're never gonna in your life be in a room where you're surrounded by more people so focused on like doing one thing, which
yeah,
is
no, I think it's pretty cool.
yeah, yeah, it's cool. It's cool. But then it also does blow things out of proportion a little bit. Because I remember like one of like the first month or two, um, and and there was this issue with the towels that they weren't meant to be getting hung up in the changing room or something like that, like super small thing. And then everybody was just kicking up a fuss about it because it was like all that was going on in our life, and like our towels were like this big deal because it like dried us after a session. It just got amplified, and like the whole of the changing room was right. We're gonna go and talk to Mario. We're gonna go do this, right? Okay, and I'll send this. Like, yeah, it's funny. It's great, but then sometimes you kind of it's weird when you step out of that bubble a little bit. But yeah, had you moved down to Henley? Like, yeah, you must have been living out of Henley. Were you living down there
Yeah,
full
so I
time?
was kind of like still at uni, but kind of doing it online. Um, so I think that actually kind of added a bit of balance while I was
Right.
there for the first year because I had that to do as well, which I think is good. But yeah, I kind of moved down to Henley in May after Europeans. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. How did you find the change moving? I guess you're not that far from home, were you? But yeah, how did you find the change?
I didn't find it too bad to be fair. I mean the facilities at Caversham are obviously amazing, compared to the bay I'd been rowing out of at Nottingham. So I think that was quite a pleasant difference. But yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Cool. Cool. All right. And then yeah, you subbed in into a double with Imogen, is that right?
Yeah, Europeans earlier in the year, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and just like I mean, she's someone that technically I've like referred to so many times for like footage and like catches. Um yeah, like how was rowing in a boat with Imogen? How did it feel? Like was there anything you were learning? Oh, hello.
Hello, is it back on?
Yeah, yeah, I got you.
Sorry,
I
my
can hear.
internet connection is not very good.
It's been good. It's been solid the whole time. Apart from that, I guess.
Okay.
Cool. That's
Sorry
where we
about
can
that.
no, it's no worries. You can edit it out. So yeah, I was just asking about how it was rowing with Imogen, and then I'll just cut now. Did
Yeah,
you
no, I
sorry,
think
did
it
you
was a
catch my
really
question? Sorry, did you catch my question
um
about
kind of.
Imogen?
You
Okay.
were on about like you using her in your
Footage.
technical analysis videos.
Yeah. Yeah, so like yeah, we like I think she just rose like really nicely. But yeah, how is it rowing in a double with her?
Yeah, I think it was a really great opportunity to row with someone so experienced. And I think the thing with the lightweights is kind of Darren knows what he wants us to row like. So we all kind of row quite similarly
Yeah.
anyway. And Imogen and Emily know how a double should feel. So I think that really helps me kind of slot into that quite well.
Mhm.
Because she kind of knew how it should feel and then kind of helped explain that to me, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I think that even though we'd never done a race pace piece together before, we didn't do too badly. So
Yeah, no kidding. Um, what did you like how should a double feel?
I think when we rode in the Fleepies, it always felt quite lively and light. Like I don't think it should ever feel heavy.
Hmm.
And I think when you're moving together, it just feels like one person rowing in the boat rather than
Hmm.
two people.
Okay.
Um,
So you think timing's a huge thing in doubles then?
Yeah, I think to make a double go well, you have to row the same. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're both doing the same things wrong or the same things right. I think if you're doing the same thing, then it will go pretty quickly.
Hmm. Yeah. So yeah, and then specifically technical areas like I mean, I just look at the like Imogen's catch quite a lot, and I think it's like really, really good. Like, w could you just describe sort of how it felt and how you guys were going about rowing in that way? That, yeah, like just a bit more specifically.
Yeah, I think it was kind of like just focusing on being really loose at the catch and kind of like you almost need to think about picking up no work at the catch
Okay.
because the load will come through the stroke, if you know what I mean. So don't
Yeah.
worry about doing loads of work when you put your blade in because you do need to apply force, but equally that force needs to be applied with acceleration
Hmm.
um, because otherwise you just get stuck. So I think that's really important. And then we really focus on kind of utilizing the hip swing as well, because that again adds a lot of acceleration at the end
Hmm.
of the stroke and really makes the most of that leg drive.
Okay. Yeah, and I get so like by the time I think what you had mentioned earlier that you were quite front heavy, like earlier in your rowing journey.
Yeah,
So do you feel like it was
yeah, I
better by
was.
that point, or was that still something that was actually like quite good for you to get to work on?
I think like it is still something I work on. Like it is a lot better, obviously, than it was. But I think getting to row and race in that double really helps me with that as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, nice. No, I bet. Alrighty. And then so again, this is where I'm being a bad podcaster, I guess. Were you were spare, weren't you, for Paris? Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. I was
Yeah.
on the reserves for the
Cool.
Olympics, yeah.
Cool. And then did you get to did traveling spare?
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. Although
So,
I didn't actually get to do my reserve race because I had COVID. So I didn't get to
oh,
go out until after everyone else had already left.
oh, nice. Not a very good spare then.
Well, I was there for the first race, so
Okay, there you go. Yeah. Okay, cool. Like how was that being how was that experience being a spare?
yeah, I think it was great to still get to go and experience
Yeah, I
an
bet.
Olympics. I mean, it was amazing, like the difference between a world championship and Olympics. Um, but yeah, obviously a shame to not get to race.
Hmm. Did they have did they have a spares race?
Yeah, they did, but I didn't make it out in time
Ah, right. Okay, I didn't know if
because of
that first right. Okay. Okay. Well, yeah,
yeah.
no, cool cool Amazing experience nonetheless, and a huge
Yeah,
achievement. Yeah, massive congrats. Um, cool. So like, yeah, how was that period after, you know, I'm guessing quite intense training, lots of direction, the Olympics. Like, what was that like kind of after? How did you find after the Olympics? How are you? Yeah, what was that period like?
um, I think it was just quite a big change. Kind of not having a training program anymore for a while. But obviously, I've still been quite busy because I've had to get ready to go back to uni.
Mm,
So it's kind of like I don't know. It's like one thing's finished and then you need to move on to the next thing, kind of thing. I think it's good that had something afterwards, to kind of shift my focus to.
yeah, yeah. Cool. So like, what's next? What's next with the rowing then? Are you gonna go into the open weight, or are um you gonna go full on into being a vet?
I'm not completely sure yet, but I don't think I'm finished with performance sport.
Oh,
So
cool. What does that mean? That sounds like you're teasing us.
yeah, I'm not completely sure what I'm going to do yet, but I'm definitely not ready to stop training really hard. So
Awesome. Yeah. What do you? Okay. So well, maybe rowing and then running. Would you get back into running or triathlon?
potentially, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of considering my options at the moment. But yeah,
Nice.
I do still love rowing. So
Nice. Yeah. No, I guess no rush really is there to make any decisions. Any chance, what would you consider going back into, or would you do like, recreational but competitive and maybe race some of the kind of other domestic international races, or would you make like, is there a consideration of maybe having a crack at GB open weight?
yeah, potentially. Yeah, I need to see how strong I can get.
Hmm. Well, you got the
But
boat speed, don't you?
yeah, but you've got to have the ergo scores and stuff
That's
to
such
back that up. So
bullshit. That's sorry, I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anything, but I think that is such bullshit that you have to hit the erg scores. But anyways, cool. So, Liv, yeah, really enjoyed like this conversation. Really enjoyed hearing about your training and everything you were doing to get into to where you got. And yeah, really appreciate you finding the time in your kind of off season before I guess things start to pick back up again. And yeah, thanks again.
yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's been great.
Awesome. Cheers and cut.
I hope that you have enjoyed this conversation and taken away valuable, actionable pieces of advice that you can implement now. As many of you know, we're fairly capped on how many people we can work with one-to-one, so we spend a lot of time making good free content like this so that we can have as positive an impact in the rowing world as possible. To do one better than content, we're currently giving away our free over 40 Training Zone calculator. So much of Training Zone calculations are based off of younger elite Olympians, and these calculations do not account for the physiological changes that happen in your body as you age. When we coach people one-to-one, we analyze their data, make sure they're not going too easy and wasting their training time, and make sure that they're not going too hard and destroying their health and decreasing their energy levels. What we've done is gathered together all of our data, made it into a simple, easy tool that you can use so that you can make more of the limited training time that you have. So depending on when you're listening to this, we may have changed the offer, which means that the over 40 training tool won't be in the description forever. So if you want access, head to the link in the description, fire through a quick form that asks you a couple of other questions, which gives us an idea if there's any other free resources that we can send you. 60 seconds later, you have the over 40 training tool calculator, and you'll be one step closer to rowing to the best version of yourself.